Hey, so we recorded this episode a few weeks ago when we were still learning things. This is one of the first things that we filmed, and the beginning kind of got messed up. So there's no actual intro for this. So I figured I would just put a really quick intro. Essentially, what this is our podcast. It's called My Ovaries Made Me Do It. And it's a podcast about all things lady related. It is not only for ladies, but we do talk about a lot of, women centric things happening. But we do hope to have some more guests and just discuss, womanhood and bring to light just information on periods, for example, and other kind of taboo or tough topics to talk about. So look for more in the future, and here's our first episode. So yeah, let's chat. Let's hear your period stories. Who wants to
Yeah. I think you should go first. You said you had a really good
Oh no,
story.
I didn't have a great story. I just had a yeah. So, anyways, I got my period when I was going into eighth grade. So it was the summer before eighth grade, which is like a little later than I feel like most of my friends got it around. Like I feel like they got it around seventh grade, and then I kind of like got it in the summer.
How
But
old were you?
got it,
I
huh?
was like, how old is that?
It's like 12 or 13, depending on I guess whenever your birthday is.
Okay.
And so I was out visiting my grandma in Colorado, and that's when I got it. My mom wasn't there. Like we were in the mountains of Colorado with my grandma, who like had not had her period in a very long time. And so that was really fun. Uh, it was traumatizing. I like tried to use a tampon, and like that was not, because when you're young, like your flow is not really that heavy for a tampon. But that was like all she could find in the closet. So I was like, all right, well. And I was scarred, did not use tampons for like 2 years after that. It took me a while to get back into it. But I just remember like calling my mom, just crying, and being like, I got it, and you're not here. It was fine at the end of the day. It's just not how I imagined it going. But I remember when I got it and I just was like, oh my God, I hate anything that's too repetitive. And so I was just thinking, like, oh my God, this is going to happen every month until I'm like, 45. And I was like, my first thought was like, let the countdown begin. How many years do I got? Wildly different now. Now I'm like, okay, how many years do I still have? Like.
Yeah. My mom actually wasn't there either for my first period. And for a good, like, 6 months before I got my period, I would get really, really intense cramps. Like so bad that I would cry and I'd just like curl up into a ball. And my mom was like, it's better once you actually get your period. So I was kind of like hoping for it because it was so bad. And I was at my dad's house. And I remember I was just tired and I slept like the whole day and got up to the bathroom and I was just like, that's messy. And like, let me call I called my mom and you have to come get me because I don't want my dad to know. And she was just like, your dad will go to the store and pick you up whatever you want. Like he doesn't care. He was always really good about getting, like, she's like, he picked me up tampons and stuff. But I made her like send my sister to come pick me up because I was like, I'm not telling my dad that I got my period. Like that's not happening. We're not going to go to the store. Like I don't even need. Um, yeah. And so I just went home and I don't remember a lot about that like after going home and stuff. But I remember I was like using pads at first, but I taught swim lessons and so I was in the water and so I knew like that was coming up. And one of the next times I got my period, it was like maybe a few months later, I had to teach and my mom was like, well, now you've got to use a tampon because you can't take a pad into the water. And she was not home again to show me. And she told me to like take out the paper because you know how like tampons come with instructions
Yeah.
in the box. And she's like, but use your fingers. So like she was like, feel yourself to like figure out your like angles and everything,
Uh,
which I was 12 was just like so weird because like I had never
yeah.
even thought about touching myself.
Hmm.
Um, but like really worked out in the end because I was like, oh, and like knew the angle and just like boop, and yeah, like had no issue with yeah. So nothing like too crazy. But I did have to teach my sister that too, like show her how to use a tampon because she was really convinced that she had a vagina for the longest time. She was just like, I don't have one. She's like, I was born without a vagina, but it was like, well, you got your periods. You definitely have a vagina. Like, trust me, mom told me you just gotta like put your finger in there to feel it.
Find the right area. You'll be good. It's fine.
Find the angle. Yeah. So that was like my first one. Not too crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, and maybe it was the second I like stayed home from school. I remember my mom made me, I don't know why like it stands out to me, but she made me lunch and it was just like the sweetest thing that like I was home with these cramps in my period. I'm coming downstairs and she was making it, so I like snuck back upstairs so she wouldn't know that I knew that I was gonna get surprised with shrimp. And, like, yeah.
Cute.
That was it. It was just like I did feel kind of rushed into tampons because I worked at a pool.
Yeah.
But it also just kind of made it very normal for me almost from the get-go.
Yeah. Sometimes when you're forced into something, it's just like, well, I gotta learn it. Like, here's the learning curve. Let's go.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I never told my dad that period, so he still doesn't know. And
He probably still thinks he's on it.
yes, no.
Dad's little girl.
I remember it was the day after my birthday, and I don't remember what I was turning. I want to say I was like turning 13 or something. I just remember like going into the pool. We had our pool in the backyard, and then like getting out and going to the bathroom. And I was like, what happened? Like I thought I was nervous. I was like not expecting it, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, okay, like now I know what's going on. Like took me a minute. So I like opened the door and like called for my mom.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was, we're in our like downstairs bathroom, so I have nothing. And then like my brother and his friends were like out in the pool because we just had a bunch of people over. So I was like trying to like be discreet, but like I didn't know.
But also freaking out.
But also semi freaking out. Yeah. So she had to like come get me things. And I wasn't like, I just used pads for a while. Like I was terrified of tampons. So I don't know how you, like very first time I would have been like, nope, I'll just bleed everywhere.
It was available and I was like, this seems terrifying. And I'm sure I did it wrong and like, oh God.
Yeah. No, I had to like, the first time I did a tampon was like, my friend like had to, I don't know, teach me. Like she was in there, but I could hear her outside the bathroom like cheering me
Yeah.
on. Like, you got this.
There's no one more supportive than like women in a women's restroom.
Yes.
I would be the nicest ladies there. So let's move on to cravings because they are a real thing.
It is shocking when you first like realize you have it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, what?
Well, because cravings, like my mom, I remember when I was younger, my mom used to be like, oh my God, I need something salty. Like my mom always craved salt when she got her period. And so she would always be like, oh, I just need something salty. Like I need chips or whatever. And I was always like, oh, I thought like health class said you crave chocolate. And she's like, you crave whatever you crave. And I mean, it's true. Yeah, but it's true. Like I do. And I kind of oscillate between the two. Like sometimes I'll be like, why do I want like Fritos? Who just eats Fritos? But then it's like the next day I get my period, I'm like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that happens. I like recently was craving a very specific type of cookie, and it's like the animal cookie that's covered in like pink or white frosting and sprinkles. And I was just like, oh, why do I want these? I haven't had this cookie in 10 years. I want a bag of these cookies. And it was all I could think about, and I couldn't figure it out. And then like 2 days later I got my period, and I was like, duh, like why isn't that your first thought when you start craving something? Like, oh, your period.
Yeah. It never like dawns on you that that's what's happening, even though like it's lining up. It happens every month. Although I don't necessarily get cravings every month. Like
that's very true.
And then crave something random, like you said,
And that's probably why like it comes out of the blue, because it's not every month. Some people might have it, every month, but
like mild or like
Mine's definitely McDonald's specifically.
Mm.
Or now that we've moved to Texas, I've gotten into Whataburger. So it's either McDonald's or Whataburger. And I'm just like, I wake up in the morning and like, I need this today.
Give me more Whataburger.
It's happening, I'm going. Yeah.
I also like when I crave chocolate, I don't crave like, cheap Hershey's chocolate. I crave like Godiva. I'm like, why do I want that like expensive, thick chocolate? Because, bleed in 2 days. Yes.
Oh, it's just like, I miss Gertrude Hawk chocolate, like smidgens.
Good.
I miss smidgens.
I don't know. Is that like a countrywide thing?
No.
It's like the
No. West Coast is sea candy. And like New Jersey, East Coast is like, I once had my sister get me smidgens for Christmas and I had 2 boxes. I was like, one to share and like one for me, and brought them into work and everyone was just like, what is the smidgen? Like,
it's an amazing thing.
They're incredible. It's like, I know. But no, I'm only sharing my one box. Yeah, I definitely don't have cravings all the time, and it switches up. Like sometimes I'll want salty, sometimes sweet, sometimes I'll crave meat specifically. Like I'll want red meat, which is not like something I ever will have a craving for unless I'm about to get my period or something. Yeah.
I'm sure there's scientific stuff behind it.
I think it's the iron. My mom always tells me you need the iron, and I'm just
yeah.
Yeah.
Cravings lead into people, blaming your mood on periods, and that's always been. It's something that I've definitely done before, but I also get mad when people do it in general.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, blaming mood on periods and cramping, because like my mood does change when I get my period, but I also hate when people point it out to me.
It was definitely worse for me when I was younger and in high school, and my mom would say something. She'd be like, "I was gonna get her period," and it's like, "No, it has nothing to do with my period. I'm just mad." And then I get my period and be like, "I'm really sorry. It had to do with my period." Like, I can't control my emotions.
Also, you were
I know, I've got 3 daughters, Deanna. But yeah, I can't stand that when someone's like, oh, you must be getting your period, huh? And I'm like, I could like legitimately be feeling this way, bleeding or not, Yeah.
And I think that's the problem with that, because a lot of people will just be like, oh, they're like probably getting their period, or like blaming on when like, no, this is legitimately how I feel.
Yeah.
You're not taking this seriously because you're like, oh, it's just your period's coming or something.
Very dismissive.
Yeah. And to go a little off topic, I feel like that's a little more something people are aware of now. It's like letting everyone in general just like feel your feelings. I think that's more of a movement that's happened fairly recently. So with periods, there's actually 200 different symptoms. Deanna, you said, right? There's like
it's something like there's 200 different symptoms that you can get with your period, and you can get them in like any variety of those symptoms, and they can be different each of the days or each period cycle, which I thought was just like really crazy. There's so many like minute little symptoms, it can go from skin issues to cramping to headaches to difference in sight, and it's just crazy the type of things, food cravings, like it's just nuts. Breast size, sensitivity, tiredness, like it's then any variety of the different ones that you can get. It was something with work that I like looked it up, because they're like, how bad can you like a period be? And I was like, you don't like women like literally have to like pretend that you're not in pain a lot of time or uncomfortable. And that was also when I was reading about women with heart attacks, and how a lot of women, the main reasons women will die from heart attacks is because it doesn't present as what they think of a typical heart attack. And then the other one is that it's just not as painful as period cramps. And just like, oh, my cramps are more intense, so what I'm feeling now is not actually an issue. And then they,
wild.
Isn't it wild? It's just like crazy. I don't think people get how intense period cramps can really be. I mean,
I mean,
Oh.
there's days where like I remember being in high school and like some of my friends would be like, I couldn't go to school yesterday. Like it hurt
Mhm.
so bad that I couldn't go to school. And I was always like, I've been lucky enough that I've never had that intense. Like I've had times where I've had to take like Midol or Tylenol or whatever, but I've never been out of commission. But I know there's some people that are like truly affected and like they're done for the day.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. It was more painful for me before I got my period. That I was just like, oh my, like it was so bad. I kind of have like stages. I feel like they've gotten more painful now that I'm in my 30s for sure. You know, and think about it, and I'm like, literally, like part of your body is like ripping itself off of itself. Like it's going
Yeah.
to be painful.
Mhm.
Yeah, but I never get like too bad, which is I'm really grateful. So I know,
It's
yeah, some people.
it's rare. Like it's interesting because most months I'm not even affected by it. Like half the time it'll show up and I'm like, oh, guess it's here. Like didn't even realize it. And then other times, like the day before I'll get cramps and I'm like, I know what's happening. And then
Mhm.
like, sometimes I'll get like, the second day and they'll be really bad, but it's just like there's never any consistency. So I don't know what's going on to make them more or less painful and on the days. Like it's interesting to think about what changes could be happening that are making
Mhm.
occur differently every month.
Yeah. And then with like teaching yoga, I actually learned with some of the breathing techniques that we do, if you're doing them like right before the period, it can make the cramps a lot more intense. And that I experienced because I was like, whatever. Yeah, I was like, whatever. And then I would do this like breath of fire where you're pumping your navel. And so you really like your navel is just a little bit below your belly button, the navel point I'm talking about. And so you're pumping your stomach in that way, and the cramps just were so much more intense than normal, and it was like not I didn't actually think it was a real thing. And now I was
Never doing that again.
yeah. But I have done it before because sometimes when I teach I don't have a choice. I'm on my period, I have to just like do what I'm doing, and I want to demonstrate. And so sometimes it will like affect me, and then other times not so much. Like, and there's like not like kind of you said that consistency always with it.
So they have everything from like the Diva cup and period panties and just even a crazy amount of sizes of tampons and different ways that you can handle your period. So I personally haven't used any of the Diva cups, but I've heard like really good reviews on them.
I want to, but it just kind of terrifies me. Not terrifies me, but like I guess it's the first time doing a tampon, did the same thing, and then it's like, no, it's nothing. So I feel like it's just getting past that initial like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I can put it in and I can take it out, and it's not a big deal. Because like the Diva cup is supposed to be like better, especially with cramps.
Mm-hmm.
Supposed to help with bad cramping, and you can kind of leave it in for a little bit longer than you can a tampon.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I haven't actually used it.
I think what like not scares me, but what has scared people I've talked to about it. I've never used one, but I have. I've had friends that have used them, and I've looked into it. But it's not like a cheap thing to just jump into. Different sizes, and I'm like, oh, I can like guess at what size I am, right?
Yeah.
But the idea of like having to do it in public and like actually like in a bathroom or something like that, it's still a little
well, because you have to clean it between
not
each so
yeah, exactly. Yeah, would have to like leave the stall, go to the wash it out, go back to the stall, and if there's like people around, like that's not super comfortable. Although I am like personally trying to like do my part, making people more comfortable talking about periods and the fact that every woman has it, and there's nothing gross and disgusting about it.
Right.
I just feel that way about pads. Pads are so much messier than I ever expected, and it's just like, oh, okay.
and not as absorbent as I feel like you would think they would be.
Right.
Yeah.
I've used pads in years, but
and then if they like move and then they're not where they're supposed to be.
Oh yeah, I still actually use them. I like them because I don't like to use like tampons at night or anything of that nature. My old roommate loved her period panties, and she's the only one that I'd ever met that had used them. So I just like dedicated a few pairs of underwear to it. for those times where like I just kind of wanted to, because I was used to be fine using tampons all the time, and then as I kind of moved more into like the natural world and like natural way of doing things and using things, I was like, oh, maybe I don't want to be using these tampons all the time, because I do worry about that toxic shock symptom that can just show up, you know. Or
I remember being terrified of that as like when we were first learning about it. But then my mom was like, you just have to like not forget it's in there, basically. Like you'll be okay as long as you're consciously changing it, you know. I have tampons stashed away everywhere. I have some in my car, and I always have one in my purse. Like I have some in my desk drawer at work. Like
I've got just like pens. Like I put pens and tampons in every single one of my purses. Just like, there's always one around.
Yeah, that's what I was. If I run out in the back,
Yeah.
I can find them somewhere. I know.
Especially with how expensive they are. Like when you go to a bathroom and you have to like purchase one, God forbid, like they up the price. They're more expensive now.
They're crazy. Like, and then there are almost always those cardboard applicators too, which are just like more uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. Or the ones with one time I got one and it had like no applicator. It was just
the OB one.
Yeah, I hated it.
I was just thinking about those. My mom used to use those, and I was just
nope.
Yeah.
Not gonna happen. Tampons are so expensive, especially like if you have like a heavier flow. You go through so many. You know, like you go through so many in like 1 week, and you're just like, well, that was a whole box.
Well, and we can actually move on to our next topic, because that kind of rolls into it, is the pink tax. And Deanna, if you want to talk more on that, I think you know a little bit more about it. So share away.
Well, the feminine products and stuff are more expensive. They have like what's called that pink tax. Yeah. So tampons, pads, those things are going to be, they have like an extra tax added onto them. Same thing for like we were talking, I think they call it the pink tax, not just for women, but like the women razors will be more expensive, even though it's the same, but it's for a boy. And it was Scotland that recently got rid of the pink tax across the board, which was really great.
Oh, nice.
Because they do need to be affordable, and it's really, really ridiculous. When I was living in Portland, they were trying to push them to give free tampons and sanitation products to the students, and one of the superintendent was just like, if we gave out free tampons, like girls would take advantage of it. And it was like sticking 3 tampons instead of 1. Like, what do you think? How would these girls take advantage of it? You know,
there's a brewery around here, Sigma Brewery, and I went with my friend Jen when she came out to visit. And I remember going to the restroom, and they just had like a little basket, and it had tampons in it. And I thought that was like the coolest thing. I was like, how wonderful of them! Like, they're just there if you need it. Like, I didn't take one because I didn't need it. Like, you know, it's there if you need it. And that was like, I literally shouted them out on Instagram. I was like, went into your bathroom, saw this, it was great, thanks so much, you know, like, yeah.
Orange Theory does that too, which I like. Every bathroom I've been into at theirs has always had a few tampons and like a little basket on it, and I'm just like, that's beautiful. Like, thank you. Like, not expecting people to just like take advantage of it because it's free.
Like, who's going to be hoarding tampons? Like, like, I know they're expensive, but like, I feel like.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like,
we know other girls are like, if I'm in a situation, I want them there, so I'm going to leave them there for the next girl. That's going to
because you can get surprised. Sometimes it just like pops up early. You don't have any of those like body warning symptoms. So, but they're crazy expensive. I mean, they're like what, $10 a box plus, depending on.
They're like $7. The ones that I get are like $7 a box. And like,
it's just ridiculous. You know, and working with like this community, that was one of the main issues, was women getting a hold of the sanitary products and able to actually clean themselves at that time of the month. And I don't know, there's just so much more that we could be doing around these things to make it easier and less expensive and more accessible for people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh.
I don't remember what country it was, but it was saying that some girls would have to literally miss school when they had their period because they didn't have any feminine products to be able to like, you know, handle their
Be able to
flow
be
while they're
outside.
while they're at school. And they were talking about the disadvantages of like something natural that happens to them that they can't control, that now they have a disadvantage in their community as opposed to the boys who it's not, it's not their fault that they have an advantage, but it's just unfortunate that those girls were having to miss that class time because they didn't have anything available to them.
When if the school offered some, like that would be nice because if they could go to school, they would have something.
And I don't remember what country it was. They may not even, the country itself. I'm not sure.
But I'm sure, like, even in like low income areas, I'm sure they have trouble, like, getting stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I really think it should just be available in schools, like across the board for students to have access to tampons and to pads, depending on where they are in their, whatever you're more comfortable with.
Right.
Because it is expensive. If you don't know a person's like economic
status. Yeah.
Thank you. Like, where am I looking?
Well, because they do, they do the free meals for the kids at school. And I feel like this falls under the same kind of thing. Like you're saying, you don't know where somebody's coming from. You don't know the life that they're living, and to make those, I mean, I remember in our high school, they had them there, but you had to like pay money. And to us, 25 cents was not a lot, but to somebody who doesn't have that much, like that's still something that you're having to pay multiple times a day for an entire week. And if you don't have money, that's what do you do?
I wish that there was a simulator for men. Like, how they have the simulator for
pregnancy,
labor pains, that they can sort of understand that feeling of having a cramp and just like no energy. Because like I was saying, for me at least, the first day I'm always so tired. Like that's one of my first signs that I'm going to get it is I wake up exhausted and I'm just like, oh, my period's coming. I'm drained.
And I feel like you could probably simulate it with that machine. They would just have to have it all day long on that.
Yeah. Exactly. There's no break from it. Yeah.
It's interesting when you think about it because like we live with it. You don't know what you don't know, and so like we don't know any different,
So
it would be interesting to like live a life where you've never had period cramps. And I know there's like other pains that people can have that we will never experience, but like I don't know. It's interesting because again, you don't know what you don't know. So
my mom had a very, very strong flow and she got into her 30s, so she like always tried to prepare me. She's like, you're just gonna start hemorrhaging, and I'm like, oh, like that sounds so bad. Yeah,
I feel like mine went opposite. No, mine like used to be longer and now it's shorter, and it's not like drastically shorter, but it's like noticeably like, okay, it used to be 5 days, now it's 4 days, and like it starts off lighter. And I know like my light days and my heavy days, and they actually stay pretty consistent. Whereas like when I was in my 20s, it's like, well, maybe I'll be a light day or a heavy day. Who knows? Like, now it's a little more, I know what to expect, and it's a little bit shorter for me anyways.
Like 27 days, 27 days, 27 days. Now it's like 24 days, 26 days, 27 days, 28 days. Oh, and then every once in a while it's like, boom, twice in 1 month. And I'm like,
That's
worse. That's this month. So that is how it has changed for me. The mood situation, I feel like my mood has, whereas like you won't be able to tell as much that I'm getting it, and like people aren't gonna be like, oh, are you about to get your period? Like I don't get that anymore.
Yeah, I feel like mine's different. I get so much more emotional now. I used to be stone faced when I was a teenager, and like Karen, she used to always be like, I know you're not heartless, but like nothing affects you. And I was, and now I feel like just years of, I guess, maybe bottling that down. Now, whenever it's like a period, like if there's just even a hint of like emotional music, I'm like welling up tears and just like, crying over Hallmark commercials that I don't even care about the people in.
Like mine's a little hard to tell because when I was in my 20s, it was very inconsistent, my period. So like it would usually, like if I got it, I would get it for 7 days. But it would, it wouldn't be super heavy. It would just kind of be there for 7 days. But then I would like miss months, and not like months at a time, but like I'd like have it, miss it, have it, miss it, like every other month. So then I like finally, I don't know, I saw one doctor and she didn't really explain much to me. Like, so she like put me on birth control, and then I didn't like the birth control, so I just stopped it and didn't care. But then I went to another doctor and told her that, and she was like, oh, explain that it's not, you don't have to get one every month, but like if you're inconsistent, it could cause other problems. And so she put me on birth control. So my 30s, I've been on birth control. So like I've seen changes, but it's probably related to that because like now it's super short. Now I have like 3 days, pretty light.
Yeah, but I loved it when mine was 3 days and light. I'm done.
I know. I mean, it's great. But so I mean, it's mainly from that as opposed to like just getting older. Like if I stopped it, I'd probably have see some changes. But and like if you have like different things going on, like if someone has fibroids or something, or like cysts, like that can cause like super heavy periods and heavy cramps. And so like but I also feel like sometimes that is not known. Like you think, oh, these are my cramps, so then you don't really say anything to like anybody, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh no, you've had fibroids this whole time, and you crying in pain because it hurts so much, or something like that, which like luckily none of us
so many women deal with that.
And I feel like that's not like when we were getting taught about periods and stuff like that, it was just kind of like, you might have cramps, so then you just kind of accept that, okay, these are my cramps, or these are my pains, or things that I'm going through,
this is my experience,
and not really like talking to your doctor about it, which was I mean, not that I have fibroids, but like which was my issue with the like missing a period. I was just like, oh, maybe that's just me, that's just how it happened. And not that thankfully anything was super wrong with me, but like it took me years to bring it up to somebody to like mention it
and have them regulate
and have them like explain to me really what was going on and what I need to do about it.
And that kind of actually leads into one of our last topics is like, do you feel like school prepared us and like friends and family prepared us? Because I feel like I didn't know as much as probably would have been helpful at the time. And like you said, like we're not really taught, at least in our experience, because we all went to the same high school. In our experience, I don't feel like our, school gave us any like really good training other than just like it'll probably happen around then.
I feel like we got like a time frame, like, oh, you're gonna get your period around this time, but I don't remember them going into any details about it at all. Like I got everything from my mom, and she was very like specific. She tried not to tell me too much because she didn't want me to like take on the experience that she had, because she always had really bad cramps and all that kind of stuff. But no, not at all. I feel like there's a lot that school doesn't teach us, and they really should go into more about your cycle and how to talk about it with a doctor. Because you don't really bring it up, and like what level like the cramps will be at, some of the other symptoms that you can have, and just like understand that it's messy. No one, like, you don't think about it, but it is so much messier than you expect. Especially that first time, you're just like I kind of had the same reaction as you, Lindsay. I was like, what the hell, just am I dying? That's what it is. Like, you do? Oh yeah, okay. Oh, that's what it is. Like, no, I feel
and I feel like most of our health classes were with with the boys in our class, and I feel like maybe that's why, like, not that it makes it right, but like maybe that's why they didn't do it, because they were like, oh, guys are in here. Like
there was one day where they separated us. And like they just showed us like a video on periods, but it was just a video. Like nobody talked to us about it. And like you said, it took you years to go to a doctor. Like I wish they had teachers that were, and I know it's a thin line coming from the education background. I get how there's a thin line between what teachers can say and what parents allow their children to know. But like at the same time, if you're educating children, this is part of it. Like this, it's natural. It's something that happens. And like, if they're not learning at home, they need to be learning some kind of useful information of like, if it doesn't seem normal or if it hurts too bad, like talk to somebody kind of thing.
Yeah.
So.
And take away that stigma too, because I do remember kids getting, or girls getting like made fun of a little bit for having their periods so young in school, or people doing like bloody, but like using food coloring on pads and like
I remember that sixth
grade
grade.
stuff. Yeah, exactly.
I remember that.
Yeah, it was through like this anyway, and so things of that too, because I was always very, like checking to see if you've bled through, like that type of a situation, and like how you have, and not like having the boys not laugh or make fun of you or things of that nature. Like I wish that it was, and I hope that it is now.
I remember
coming up more just normalized.
One time I put like, I didn't have pockets, and so I put a tampon like in my sleeve, and I went to go move it, like flung out across the room in like my high school class, and like high school like had it, but I just remember being beat freaking red, and like, why are you embarrassed? Like
I have it.
like just take that cigarette. Although I guess high school everything's embarrassing, so that might never change.
That's something that even in my third I would do at times, is like hide the tampon and then go to the bathroom at work. And like sometimes I was like, why am I trying to like hide it so that no one knows? Like, you know what? Yeah, like that's right, here it is.
Like the same thing, how we weren't really prepared for our periods. Like I feel like I'm not really that prepared on to like know the symptoms of menopause. Like I didn't realize that like so you can get migraines. Like my mom went through it, and she was like, yeah, our family gets really bad migraines, so have fun with that. And I was like, I never even knew that was an option or a thing. What? So it's interesting that people don't really talk about that either. I think maybe a little bit more now, but like my mom doesn't share that much about the menopause experience.
Well, I watched my mom go through it. My mom went through like early onset menopause, brought on by a traumatic event. And so, and like she had intense hot flashes. I mean, we grew up in the dead of winter. She'd have the air conditioning. She bought air conditioning just for her bedroom because the hot flashes were so bad. And there's times where she'd like run out of the house and just like lay down in the snow.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I know, right? And there was mood swings, and there's times where she's like, you're too close, you're giving me a hot flash. And I'm like, my body?
I do remember my mom, like she'd get so frustrated because she'd be like in a room, and she'd like always have to wear a tank top because she'd have to take her stuff off and be like, I'm too hot, it's too hot, Like,
yeah. And my mom decided to forego like estrogen and just allow, she was like, your body is meant to, if it's dumping it for, it's kind of, she was like, so I just wanted it to do that. So that's kind of in my head too, is like, oh, I'm just going to kind of allow it to play out how it will. But yeah, besides the hot flashes and thing of the period, and although then like sometimes it was like suddenly show up on her. Like I remember one time on the pool deck, because like she suddenly got her period nowhere, very heavy, and I just remember like, oh my God, like she's right, like you just like start hemorrhaging all of a sudden. I didn't think about it until you said it. Like you be like, oh, how many periods do I have? And now you're like, how many do I have left? And I'm like, oh my God, that's like, how many do we have left? And
even with that, like how many eggs do I have left, which is a totally different, topic that we're going to be covering. But yeah, like those things now go through your head. Your period, or at least they go through my head when I get my period now. I'm just kind of like, all right, does it still seem normal? Can I maybe have some babies still? Like.
Well, yeah, I've seen a difference. Like I track my ovulation, and I've seen my ovulation amount, like the days have gone down from when I was in my 20s to now I'm in my mid 30s, and I'm just like, okay, yeah, like I am aware of that, that like the fertility levels changing. But now I'm like so curious, I'm gonna get headaches, like what's gonna happen for menopause? You're right, I have no real concept of it, except it's gonna show up one day and everything's gonna again.
Yeah. And I mean, what's terrifying is like, you hear the stories of like your moms and your grandmas and, female members that are older, and they all have different, like you said, your mom just randomly got her period one time, and
Mhm.
people are like, oh, well, I went through menopause and it was awful, but also I was still getting my period every month, just like slower and slower and slower, and with all
Like
these different
tapers down.
changes. And it's just like, I don't feel like I've been prepared for
Yeah.
that. And
But it's also hard, I think, because
everybody's different.
yeah, and it's like it just genetics plays into it. So like you can talk to your mom and grandma or whatever.
Yeah.
I would think.
Well, here's the thing. My mom and her mom had vastly different experience because my
Really?
grandmother's just disappeared and everything was good. I didn't have any mood swings. I didn't have any hot flashes. She goes, it was just like it stopped coming. And I'm like, I wish that I had like thought about it when my grandfather was alive and be like, did she have mood swings? Because like you might think she didn't, but like, was there something going on? Because my mom was like across the board, all over the place. Yeah. So we'll see. I hope I take after my grandma.
Right.
Yeah.
I doubt it. I feel like I get hot flashes sometimes now, and like every like once in a while, just be like, why am I getting hot?
I'm a little worried because like my hands are always warm. They are like always, they're warm.
Well, that's good circulation.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
What a conversation. We're
Yeah.
gonna put it online for people to see. But you know what? It's about time people talk openly
Yeah.
about periods
It's
and
like,
just
shouldn't be
like,
ashamed of something that's natural in your body,
Mhm. It is very natural. And instead of being something like, oh, you're bleeding, yada, 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 it's like, you know what? It's literally like a life-giving ability, like that flow in itself is so powerful. And that's like what creates babies. It's just amazing to me. I don't know. When people weird and it's gross, I'm just like, women are literally the portals between worlds. And there's nothing disgusting about this. This is very like natural and normal. And I hate ill, gross,
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's okay. We're gonna change it. We're gonna change it with this channel. Joining us, Lindsay.
Well, thanks for having
We'll have you on for some more episodes talking about health stuff and
Yeah.
baby stuff.
Okay,
So
yeah, I got a lot about babies. I don't have any, but personal experience. But
all right. Well, this was My Ovaries Made Me Do It, and hopefully we'll be back with another episode soon. Thanks for joining us, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.